Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. I've been wanting to talk about this article from Forbes for a little while here. Let me read the headline for you. When will Bitcoin sidechains send Ethereum, Ripple, and other crypto prices to zero? Oh my God, the FUD. Fear, uncertainty, doubt, it strikes again here. And in reading through this, I just... part of what alarms me about titles of articles like this is it's those people perhaps that are investing that maybe don't spend hours per day like I do, which admittedly I know that sounds like too much because it is too much. But for people that maybe are not as well informed, they won't understand the degree to which this particular title is nonsensical. Completely nonsensical. And so I don't know that the author here, Kyle Torpy, I don't know if that he's trying to mislead. I'm not going to assume what's in his heart, but it's wrong to write an article in this way. So I would hope that it's really more so just a lack of knowledge and understanding here. Now, the interesting thing here, he's talking about Bitcoin sidechains. And here's the neat thing about this, and you'll understand as I flesh out my ideas here, you don't really have to know a whole lot about Bitcoin sidechains to understand how his premise is fatally flawed in terms of adoption of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin sidechains sending the price of other cryptos and including XRP to zero. It's just completely nonsensical. So I'm going to dive into that. Other than that, all I have for you in this video, I'm going to stick pretty much just to this, but I do have a few other tweets from the XRP community that I want to share with you. Before I speak any further on this, though, if you would please delicately tap that like button, and if you are a fan of Ripple and XRP, we should be bestest buds. Go ahead and subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel. And if you want, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. Why the heck not? Go all in. Follow Moon Lambo. I am at MoonLamboIO. All right, let's dig in here. Audible sigh. Tomorrow, a few hours from now, it will have been exactly 5 years since the original white paper on Bitcoin sidechains was released. The basic idea explained in the paper was that Bitcoin users would be allowed to move their coins between multiple, completely different blockchains that could enable a wide range of new cryptocurrency features. Okay, no, like that's not exactly how this technology will work. For example, XRP being on the XRP ledger, it can never leave the ledger. You can't just put that somewhere else. It is indeed the same for Bitcoin. If you're talking about a sidechain, then it's not the same thing as just straight up Bitcoin. If anything, you know the closest you can get to this is what you can already do with the XRP ledger. Let me lay this out here. Did you know that the XRP ledger has a built-in decentralized exchange? The way in which it's utilized today, and there's all sorts of use cases, and I actually still want to learn more about it, to be perfectly honest. But one of the things that you can do is you can issue IOUs on the ledger. So if you want to move Bitcoin faster, funny enough, a way to do it is to move it on the XRP ledger. Now, that doesn't mean that the Bitcoin is hopping off of the Bitcoin blockchain and moving onto the XRP ledger. No. There's an IOU that is a representation of that, and then all you have to do is just change the ownership of the Bitcoin having stayed in a neutral position. That's essentially it. Anyway, the end result of this functionality would theoretically be an end to the many altcoins that existed on the market at the time, as there would no longer be a legitimate reason to create a new cryptocurrency in an effort to experiment with new features. Okay, so, oh my God, this is the one where it's like, this really burns my biscuits. Why? Okay, why? God, I'm sorry. It's just there's like too many thoughts going on in my head at once, and I'm trying to figure out which one I want to say. It's like, okay. Let me flesh this out for you this way. All right. Look, XRP is being utilized the way Ripple's positioning it as a bridge currency for cross-border payments. Right. That's the way that XRP is being positioned to be used, and there's lots of reasons for it. Okay, so from a technological perspective, it's really fast. The transfers are almost free, fractions of a penny, and it takes up almost no energy. So it just seems fantastic. And so the theory here would be, but if a Bitcoin sidechain could do this, then it supplants XRP. Why? It doesn't make sense. Think about this, because it's not just the technology. Think about the ecosystem being built out here. Think about what Ripple has done to build all of the partnerships and to build the corridors out. help ensure that there will be sufficient liquidity so that on-demand liquidity transfers can happen. That's a new name for XRapid. On-demand liquidity transfers utilizing XRP can actually happen. Once the liquidity is built out, you can't just have a new coin with the same or, in theory, slightly better tech and then just have it take adoption. That's not how this works. As it turns out, standards matter. And once standards are in place, it's very hard to supplant them. When there are network effects in place, you can't just create what, in theory, from a technological perspective, is a better technology, even if you can do that. And there's like, okay, altcoin prices, they go to zero. No, because that's not how this works. And you can imagine where investors are going to put their money. They're going to put their money where they see actual real-world adoption taking place. So if you're talking about taking out, for example, XRP, and this is an XRP-centric channel, that's why I'm talking about them, and what the effect this would have on other coins, probably not that different compared to what I'm talking as far as XRP. Primary differentiator there is that XRP is the only cryptocurrency that's actually being used in the commercial production of anything, so that just means that just even further solidifies its place in the world of cryptocurrency compared to even other top 10 cryptocurrencies. So it's not going away. It's completely silly. And so then they say, instead, new features that were sufficiently complex could come to Bitcoin by way of sidechains. Today, sidechains do exist, but they come with trade-offs in the areas of centralization and censorship resistance, at least for now. At the recent Transylvania Crypto Conference, a panel of experts on the topic, including Blockstream CEO and Sidechains white paper co-author Adam Back, discussed the current state and future potential of sidechains for Bitcoin. And so what I've just cited, though, this is the reason that I said you don't have to know a whole lot about Bitcoin sidechains to understand how flawed the premise of this article is. You're not taking into consideration, in this article, they do not take this into consideration, network effects, real-world adoption. And what would the incentive be for somebody to jump ship if you're just, especially if you're just one player in the network of RippleNet utilizing XRP? What is the incentive to jump ship and no longer utilize on-demand liquidity through RippleNet? Right. Exactly. I know you're saying to yourself, there isn't one, right? Exactly. It makes no damn sense. And then here's a subheading titled, "The End of Altcoins?" ? That's why we had the inflection at the end of that sentence there. Despite the hype around Bitcoin sidechains, altcoins still very much exist. In fact, Ethereum briefly surpassed Bitcoin in terms of transaction fees collected by miners per day around the start of October, and then in parentheses it states, although that may not mean much for the ETH price. That said, Back is still bullish on the idea that sidechains will eventually diminish the attractiveness of alternative cryptocurrencies. In the history of altcoins, it seems like there was a period where there were a huge number of them that had no features, said Back at the Transylvania Crypto Conference, which, by the way, sounds like a completely made-up crypto conference, but it's not. And that played out. And then people started to need a new way to market them, so they added new features. Some of them were real features, and some of them were stories to market their altcoins. And so, look, if there are there are a lot of ICOs out there, and a lot of them are just money grabs. And if this would expedite some of those ICOs going away, if this technology actually started to take hold in this capacity with Bitcoin sidechains, super duper. If that actually happens, that's fine. But still, my main beef with this is what I just cited earlier, which is they're not taking into account actual adoption and real-world network effects, which we're seeing. And I'm always thinking about XRP because this is an XRP-centric channel, and that's what I'm genuinely interested in. That's where I see real-world adoption actually taking place. And again, not accounted for in this article. Back added that making Bitcoin more modular could allow developers to more easily bring new features to the peer-to-peer digital cash system, but there's a problem with incentives when it comes to altcoins versus sidechains. Those who are motivated by money are incentivized to create an altcoin rather than simply innovate on Bitcoin. And what do you know? Different people want different things and have different motivating factors. Gosh darn it, they stumbled onto something that makes sense. This financial incentive will remain, but it will have less credibility because if you have a very easy-to-use extension mechanism for Bitcoin and examples of extensions that do something simple that you can build on, there's not really a good story about why you're doing it somewhere else, explained Back. Well, Look, I think this takes care of itself. I don't think the rationale... I'm not saying that Bax is wrong in that specific point. I'm saying the rationale for it is probably a little bit either flawed or not fully thought out. If you look at why individuals are doing ICOs, well, in most cases, yeah, fine, it's a money grab, right? I think that's a fair statement right there. Well, in some instances, that will continue in a legitimate fashion, and once the regulatory clarity comes in, they'll probably just be securities. Those instances, why would they go away necessarily? If there's a reason, I mean, they could become dramatically diminished, and maybe we'll reach a point where really there maybe 1 or 2 or 0 in a year coming up. But I'm just saying, for the foreseeable future, the next, say, 5 years or whatever, maybe a little bit more than that. Even if the Bitcoin sidechains had the effect that they're anticipating here, I'm just saying, I don't think we're at a point with the maturation of this asset class where they just go away. Because again, and why is that? Different people want different things and have different motivating factors. Again, they're not accounting for that in this. Anyway, Peace continues. In Back's view, the development of the internet would have been a distracted, disorganized, and confused as the evolution of Bitcoin if everybody was making forked copies of TCP/IP with slight tweaks rather than simply pushing forward with one unified protocol stack. That is a flawed analogy. That's most certainly a flawed analogy. So, you know what TCP/IP... Forking this. Okay, well, first of all, and maybe they didn't know this, there were actually 2 competing forms of... Actually, let me back up. Do you know what TCP/IP is? It's basically what the glue of the internet. It's what makes the internet possible, because the internet is a network of networks. This protocol, TCP/IP, is what makes that possible. Back in... And I'm pulling from memory here, because I actually did research this about a year and a half ago. There was a competing protocol out there, and I can't remember what it was called. It doesn't really matter, but there was something competing, and I don't even remember all the specifics, but eventually TCP/IP actually won out. So there actually happened to have been 2 competing, and TCP/IP became the standard. Good luck dethroning that at this point. Why would you even want to, right? But again, standards matter, like I was saying. So, but really, if you want a proper analogy, I'd compare TCP/IP more to the likes of ILP, because ILP, that's more so like, it's not the glue of the internet, but it's the glue of moving money around the internet, because it makes interoperability possible amongst traditional ledgers and blockchains, cryptocurrency ledgers. That's what it actually does. So if you know, as far as comparing it to a fork, you know, the idea of TCP/IP forking, like that, what? No, just having that is a completely nonsensical argument. That's you're comparing apples to oranges there. I'm sorry, it simply does not work there. As far as the cryptocurrencies, because those, you could look at, if you want to make a proper analogy, something a little bit closer would be more along the lines of, there are different networks within the network of networks, and that would be like forks of a blockchain. That would be closer. It would be like different websites, but not the underlying protocol. Most certainly not. That's a bad analogy. Very bad analogy. All right, and then the piece continues. Back also added that sidechains aren't the only solution here. This concept of building on Bitcoin and weakening the viability of altcoins can be applied to layer 2 protocols built on top of Bitcoin more generally. In the past, many have argued that Bitcoin's Lightning Network makes altcoins focused on fast, cheap payments look rather pointless. And that's another false statement there. So, for those of you that don't know, the Lightning Network, which doesn't work today anyway, not very well anyway, centralized solution requiring pre-funding of accounts. Even if you get that up and running to a satisfactory degree that it's actually adopted, did you know, and this is true, Lightning Network works for almost any cryptocurrency on the planet? Did you know that? Well, Bitcoin maximalists don't like to say that, but it's the truth. It would work for XRP also. So whatever advantage you think it would give Bitcoin, it also gives all of its competitors. If there's even real advantages to be had, which today there are not. So that's all I wanted to say on this piece. It's just watch out for this stuff, though. I just really grinds my gear seeing FUD like this, because it's nonsensical. And it's just, you know what it is? It's just people that aren't in the space on a regular basis sharing opinions and concerns. And again, I'm not saying there's ill intent, because I don't know what's in the heart of this author, but he's wrong. The premise of this is wrong, period. All right, I got a few tweets I want to share with you, and then I'll wrap up the video. This is from XRP Crypto Wolf. You sent this to my inbox, actually. It's just a tweet he put out there, but send it to my inbox, and I want to share it because I like it. He tweeted out, "I love how U.S. Congressman @Rep.Ted.Bud recognized Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP as real cryptocurrency, unlike Facebook's Libra. I wonder if he's been talking to Brad Garlinghouse and Ripple about regulations for crypto, since Brad is always stating exactly what the congressman said," which is a fun tweet. I agree that. And so there's a video clip. I probably should have pulled it up for this, or at least linked it. I don't have it readily available for this video, but indeed there was a link with Mark. He was talking to Mark Zuckerberg, and he cited that Libra is not a real cryptocurrency. And then you can get. I feel like you're parsing words a bit if you get into that, but it was interesting hearing the next three coins cited were Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP cited as real cryptocurrencies. So I found that fascinating nonetheless. All right, next tweet here from XRP Neo. Brad, of course, Brad Garlinghouse, said that MoneyGram wants to open up many more corridors since their experience of Mexico has been so good at DC FinTech Week. And I wonder if there's going to be more announcements on this soon, especially with the recent Ripple commercials showing the Japanese yen and the Thai baht. It makes me wonder if we're on the cusp of learning about new corridors that Ripple's going to be going at for on-demand liquidity, which of course utilizes XRP. If they're going to announce that, I wouldn't be surprised. We'll see. It's just speculation, but maybe it would come out at Swell this year, November 7th and 8th. We'll see. All right, last tweet here. I just like this. This is from Roman Skywalker. I just came across this. Brad signing autographs. Wow. And I just thought it was cool, so I wanted to kind of share it with you here. And I'll just put it up full screen as we wrap up this video. "You're a superhero, Brad. Where's your cape?" You know what they say, not all heroes wear capes. That's it for this video. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!